back of the rim. Garnett on the slam. Oh, here's a Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
Well, I think today is as good a day as any to tackle the Nuggets Jazz 2020 series as part of the greatest playoff series of all time. It's something people have been recommending basically since it happened, so we're gonna do that and kind of put it up to the test of the one I did. Gosh, it's been 7 years since I started it, and only like 3 since I finished it, but this one only took 1 part, so I had a lot of fun rewatching this series over the last month. I hope you enjoyed the video. After a word from our sponsor, DraftKings. If you're a hoops fan in general, the most exciting month in college basketball is here. With underdogs ready to fight their way to the top and established teams defending their titles, this is the time to lock in your picks with my partners at DraftKings. Right now, they're offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Download the DraftKings app now, sign up using code DOM2K, and bet the unexpected. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings Same Game Parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. Into the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen, making watching the game that much more exciting. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code DOM2K and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code DOM2K only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Well, I think I did a good enough job all those years ago proving Celtics Bulls definitely was not the 6th best series ever. Wherever it landed when I was done is kind of up to y'all, but either way, it's got some stiff competition here for reasons totally out of anyone's control. 2020 was the first season in years that ironically felt somewhat normal. Golden State had broken up, nobody was successful in jerry-rigging another super team, leaving the league in the hands of the quote-unquote duo era. Funny enough, neither Denver nor Utah really blipped here initially. When we thought of the term duo, it was referencing established stars who'd already gotten their own in the league or been very close to it at some point. 2020 marked only the 3rd year of Mitchell and Gobert. It was Mitchell's first All-Star appearance. Meanwhile, Jokic and Murray were following up a fairly disappointing playoff debut, with Joker only on All-Star appearance number 2. Utah as a team hadn't garnered any real expectations at the time, this being their strongest season yet, landing them in the dark horse tier. Denver forced themselves into conversations by returning to the 2019 playoffs as 2nd seed, only to be promptly ignored as A, they were trying to break out during the Golden Dynasty, and B, failing to further earn their reputation by being upset by another perennially disappointing team people didn't believe in. With all the rage surrounding Los Angeles coming into the decade, the two were mere afterthoughts in a field they appeared to have no real business in. Then the field changed. Faster than we could have even imagined, fans were thrust into crowdless basketball. I remember being actively unable to even picture in my head what it looked like. A Disney bubble. The 2020 campaign was due to finish inside empty gyms in Orlando, Florida, some arguing the season should just be abandoned totally as nobody would respect the champion. Regardless, what would ensue was some of the greatest, purest hoops possible, and this no doubt contributed to what is possibly the greatest playoff series of all time. When seeding finished, the Nuggets managed a 3rd seed behind the real shows, while Utah squeezed in at 6. Mind you, Rudy Gobert was practically the face of COVID at this point, with stories having circulated surrounding the iciness of he and Mitchell's relationship following the antics. Although we didn't know it yet, this was a match made in heaven in every way possible. Both teams were likely in the same tier, right outside the window of truly contending. Utah was in the midst of discovering their postseason defense would present a huge obstacle to them getting over the hump. Although it was slightly above average, they didn't have the perimeter bodies to keep the ball in front, on top of Gobert not being great outside of protecting the rim. Denver had the same issue, just even worse. Of the 22 teams to participate in the bubble, they ranked last in defensive efficiency. They too lacked sturdy perimeter D, only Jokic was an even bigger problem as he wasn't a rim protector. He wasn't any kind of defender actually. So combine these factors with the focal point of each perimeter attack. The Jazz with year 3 Mitch were about to see something incredible. A lightning fast 2-guard with multiple ways to efficiently attack, especially here. Murray exhibited many of the same features, and so we had 2 blossoming star guards in an open gym with none of the pressure players at that age and stage normally feel. Oh buddy. Of significant note here would be how Mike Conley, the only other established ball handler for Utah, would miss the beginning of the series due to childbirth. Also of note from Denver side, they'd be missing Gary Harris, the primary Mitchell defender over the season. Mitch would take matters into his own hands, immediately setting the tone in a multitude of ways. With a tally of 57 points, he'd become the single playoff game leading scorer for the Jazz right out the gates. It actually remains the third highest point total for a player in postseason history. More importantly was how he got those points. Sure, they'd lose an overtime thriller, yet the Nuggets were going to have to find answers sooner than later. The aforementioned defensive deficiencies were on full display, with Donovan being able to create an open look nearly on demand. This, combined with the uncharacteristically hot shooting, was making waves. During the regular season, Utah shot roughly 31% on pull-up threes. In this series, it would reach as high as the 50s. Oh, this was going both ways. Murray had responded with 36 and 9, shooting nearly 66% from both the field and three. It was a great start, yet it wasn't too unlike some of the atrocities we'd already seen in bubble basketball. Maybe it'd stick around, maybe it'd stabilize. For the next 3 games, however, it hardly mattered, to be honest. Mind you, Denver was already without 2 wing pieces, not only in Gary Harris, but Will Barton as well. They did not have wing bodies to spare. Games 2 and 3 featured Mitchell posting 30 points and 8 assists on 71-86 splits, followed by Mike Conley returning to post 27 points on 69-88 splits. What? Through 3 games, the Nuggets have flat out failed to contain Utah's offense, allowing north of 124 points each time. The problem also looked kind of unfixable. Once again, Nikola Jokic. The semi-awkward looking big who nobody knew a ton about yet, very much not suspecting the peaks he'd soon reach. Sure, he was a great passer, dope in the low post, only if you can believe it, he was just a 31% three-point shooter during the regular season. With a ways to go as a player, there wasn't yet a big enough gap between his amazing offense and defensive lapses, especially not big enough to outweigh how bad the Jazz were abusing him. Every time Mitchell wanted to score, he needed to look no further than bringing Jokic to a ball screen where there was little more Malone could draw up than drop coverage. Utah set more ball screens than anyone in the league in 2020. If they opted to hide him, they simply swung the ball around until it was on his side, forcing him into the action. Matters only got worse when Conley returned and was able to create many of the same soft spots as Mitchell with very little effort. Combine this with Murray's early struggles people probably don't even remember, and by Game 4, Denver was hanging on by threads. They'd been thrashed, and as Utah continued to surge from the perimeter, they were pretty much going to have to just outshoot them. The Jazz also boasted big advantages and second chance points. Both of Denver's stars were coming up short where they were needed, once again. Toward the end of Game 4, Chris Webber, for as much flack as he used to get, actually summed up perfectly where they were heading, saying something along the lines of them garnering just enough attention to be taken seriously, yet needing to shed the reputation of a unit who just didn't have that extra gear. If it's worth anything, despite the loss, Murray had proven to have it, scoring 50 points on 58-60 splits, just nearly matching Donovan Mitchell's 51 points on 56 and 57% shooting. It was the first time in playoff history 2 players dropped 50 in the same match, yet another bubble anomaly. What had become clear was the environment was allowing basketball players to literally be nothing more than just that. No distractions, no crowd, no excess nerves. Hoopers were seeing the rim like an ocean. And if you couldn't guard a ball screen, make a rotation, or stay in front of the ball in general, splash. Now holding a commanding 3-1 lead, Mitchell's crew had appeared to take all of Denver's best shots, with very few chess pieces remaining to be moved if you were Coach Malone. What were you supposed to do without perimeter D or rim protection? Most of the way through Game 5, eerily enough, this question had not been answered. I say eerie because I never realized you can pull screenshots from both their 3-1 comebacks which show they were completely dead in the water at nearly the same points. It was done. Utah hoisted 3 after 3. Mitchell began adjusting to the adjustments, as when Malone finally opted to try and put 2 to the ball instead of leaving Jokic to die, he'd simply split through and still do what he wanted, or create a look for somebody else. And with this Conley 3, it was about time to wrap things up. Utah had once again taken another of their best shots. Oh, also Jokic had played a flawless first quarter, scoring 21 points while shooting 8 of 8 from the field and 5 of 5 from 3 by, once again, a 31% three-point shooter. He was also, by virtue of shooting more threes, at the top of the offense more, opening things up for his teammates and beginning to neutralize one of Gobert's only useful functions. Mitchell was seeing different looks led by Jeremy Grant on the ball, and it just didn't matter. After having been in control since nearly midway through the second, the Jazz were rerunning the same exact scripts as before, now leading by 13 with no signs of slowing down, and steadily walking the once again disappointing Nuggets to a premature playoff exit. Remember though, Murray was fresh off a 50 ball. He'd already proven he could be effective, and with his unit now flatlining, Jamal went and grabbed the 9. Playing all 12 minutes of the third quarter, he posted 17 points on 70%, and it was as if you could just feel something had shifted. A couple of buckets were one thing. Murray, on the other hand, was beginning to go right at Gobert, capping things off with a drive which probably would have been an all-time highlight with an actual playoff crowd.
Murray inside, incredible! Jamal Murray with a stroke of genius.
Suddenly, both teams were twisting themselves into knots trying to contain each other's star guards, and specifically for Utah, it just wasn't working. The offense was cracked. Any little bit of daylight presented massive opportunity for buckets, which was especially unfortunate given it was really a couple of broken plays which actually gave Denver space to complete the comeback. As we're here today, we now know this was a demoralizing moment, even more so than it looked. Mitchell and company were exhibiting the behavior of a boxer with his opponent on the ropes. The adrenaline was rising, you could see the bench getting jittery. The "we got him" look was strewn across their faces 20 minutes beforehand. Having to recollect yourself to face the same game plan after probably having already mentally moved on to the semifinals was going to be tough, especially as Denver wouldn't have to travel back and forth to hostile crowds on the comeback trail. Although Mitchell still had an excellent game, the new looks he was seeing were troubling if the Nuggets also had ways to get what they wanted at will. Not only was he seeing more traps before being able to just bolt downhill, Jokic started stepping up a bit as to not allow them to just spam floaters, mid-ranges, or open threes elsewhere. No big deal though, right? They still needed to duplicate the performances 2 more times in basically a week. Oops. Game 6 felt like watching a team slowly realize they've been figured out in real time. It was a war of attrition, with both teams taking early 10-point leads, only Denver had a couple of things going now. Gary Harris was back. Yes, Mitchell's main matchup was joining at a crucial point in the series, except here he'd just be another much needed body on the wing, as being asked to guard a red-hot superstar after a long layoff wasn't ideal. Unfortunately for Utah, the Nuggets were allowed enough time to figure out they clearly had the better center. Ball screens involving Gobert had been getting their guards looks on demand, only Malone's adjustments made things much harder, so much so the Jazz began to look elsewhere for production. Checkmate. Gobert rolls were worthless. He couldn't post up, wasn't a great finisher, and he could only roll. Without a jumper, the defense only had to prepare for one general outcome. Meanwhile, Murray and Jokic used their versatility to become unguardable at the perfect time. Not only could Jokic score inside and create on his own, he'd gone from shooting 31% on threes in the season to 48% on nearly 7 attempts per game. With him becoming more and more willing to step out, the defense literally had no acceptable way to guard either star, but especially not Murray. They tried Mitchell a few times, Royce O'Neal, Joe fucking Ingles was getting left on islands. It actually exposed what would become the premier problem of this era of Jazz hoops. Barely anyone could keep the ball in front, and as it turned out, Gobert anywhere other than the paint was significantly nerfed. With the new rules of the series, it was now Denver who was clearly in control, while Mitchell searched for anyone else to come along with him now that he couldn't just walk into his comfort zones. Then he realized nobody else was coming.
Utah trails, 8-minute mark in regulation, and Donovan Mitchell scored the basket and one.
Part of his game that he was not known for, knocking down threes.
Mitchell for 3, another big shot for Donovan Mitchell. He's got 30 now, 5 made threes. Murray, little runner is good. Murray goes, shot clock at 3, another little floater is good. Timeout, Quinn Snyder and the Jazz. Shot clock to 7. Mitchell's got Grant on him. Mitchell, a little step back 3 is good. What a shot. Donovan Mitchell with a big hit. Murray, 3-pointer is up, and it's good. Jamal Murray again.
Of the Jazz when they lose, and that is turnovers, and they average 9.5 turnovers. When they get more than 9, they lose. Right now, that was their 10th turnover.
Turnover turns into a 3-pointer, and Denver stretching this out to a 14-point lead. Mitchell with an answer. On the drive, Clarkson gives it up. Mitchell, that's a 3-pointer, up and in. Donovan Mitchell with a sidestep. Shot-making ability of both Mitchell and Murray is off the charts right now. Step back 3 on the way, and he's got another one. Jamal Murray. Denver using some clock here. Jokic finding Murray. Murray, does he got another one in him? Oh, you bet he does. And that might be the dagger. Wow.
When the dust settled, Murray had become the first player since Iverson in 01 to score 40 in 3 straight games, 71% from the field and 75% from 3 here to force Game 7. He'd scored 21 points in the fourth, demoralizing Utah as they realized there was almost no adjustments left to make. Jeremy Grant was hitting threes now, Monte Morris was in the mid-range. Meanwhile, the Jazz offense ground to a halt when they had to do anything other than try to abuse Jokic on screens. Mitchell's 44 would not be enough. After practically having the series won halfway through Game 5, they were on the ropes with Jamal Murray showing zero signs of letting up. What stuck out most about Game 7 was the fact Denver had not only discovered they had the better center, they were flat out the better team by now. With no crowd pressure, no travel, and just hoops, it'd merely taken them a week to reveal they A, had the better duo, and B, simply had more answers than Utah. Case in point, the Jazz fell behind in center versatility, as the Gobert roles were easy enough to take away. As long as somebody dropped from the corner and showed themselves, you were better off with a Gobert layup attempt over a Donovan Mitchell drive. On the other side of the floor, Denver could pop or roll, with Jokic also having proven to be a much better finisher and post player. Combine all this with Utah's bizarre approach to the beginning of Game 7, well, you'll quickly understand why they initially came out so flat. Determined to do it by committee, Mitch would post only 2 points and 3 turnovers on 3 shot attempts in the first, resulting in a flow which would leave them trailing by as much as 19 as the half came to a close. While he had begun to take on the challenge of Jamal Murray himself, it obviously wasn't sustainable, and I really think it's no coincidence how the game didn't tighten back up till he started pressing gas again. Unfortunately, the only other player to eventually join him would ironically be Rudy, who began to find himself in the right places at the right times, especially with the softer defensive coverage. He was the only other Jazz starter to mark double digits, which actually ended up not being too big a deal as the game slowed down. Honestly, it's the first one of these classics that looked as if they were under actual playoff pressure, which is why, spoiler alert, I'll go ahead and say this is not the greatest playoff series of all time and doesn't beat the 2009 iteration I covered. Denver discovered a second unit with athleticism that kind of made up for the lack of shot making, and had already become a problem for Utah a couple games back. As Mitchell continued to unload the clip, they reclaimed the lead, fighting back from the dead about halfway through the fourth. Surely they'd never look back. Instead of riding the momentum to the finish line, however, the last few minutes would become a familiar sight, with neither squad able to build a lead bigger than 4 the rest of the way through.
Nowhere to go, tough pass inside to Craig, and Craig converts. But Gary Harris really denying Mitchell the ball. He won't touch it, but Ingles says, that's okay, I got you. Murray to Jokic. The floater on the way, and a soft touch. Nikola Jokic.
But they're getting good looks.
Okay.
So you just have to trust your game. I like the way they're running their sets and getting quality looks.
Forget tired, Mitchell. Murray got into Gobert's chest and made the shot. Nice bounce pass to O'Neal, and he finishes it. Shot clock at 5. Conley in the paint. Gobert finishing. And Gobert backs him down. Gobert stays on his feet. Tough shot. Made it. Jokic giving Denver a 2-point lead.
It all come down to this. Mitchell and Murray had scored 50 points twice throughout, with averages of 36 and 31 respectively. 2 of the game's brightest young stars, going shot for shot at times in a way none of us had really ever seen. The coaches had played a major chess match, with Utah's barrage of screens mostly having been contained just enough. They adjusted to each other's stars the best way they could, and after 7 brutal battles, it all resulted with the ball in the hands of arguably the best player of the series, who had been having one of the greatest playoff series of all time.
They finally get it to Mitchell. 10 on the shot clock. Had it back tapped, he lost it! The Nuggets come up with a defensive play. Murray, they missed the layup, Gobert got it! Mitchell hanging at the other end, 2 seconds to go for the win! And it rims out! Denver hangs on!
Final score, Utah 78, Nuggets 80.
Ton to unpack here. First off, who's that? Gary Harris. As mentioned earlier, he'd been Donovan's primary defender all year, and despite Malone not utilizing him this way for much of his minutes returning from injury, it was masterful to give him the assignment for one possession with everything on the line. However, his poke away led to a deeply boneheaded decision, which probably should have cost him the series. Could you imagine having come all the way back down from 3-1 to lose it all in about 10 seconds in that way? Mitchell was on the flip side of that, and I'll never forget thinking this moment spelled the end for his time there. Their market wasn't great, I didn't see anyone ever coming to Utah to join him, and this was supposed to be the year they were taking a step. Fumbling it in crushing fashion, with the West only getting tougher, I just didn't see it for he and Gobert, and starting here, it'd only be a couple years before management saw it the same way. Murray, in an act of sportsmanship, kneeled down to pick his brother up. The incredible pairing had given the world a taste of the next generation of guards, and possibly what to look forward to in the 2020s. Leading up to this series, both Murray and Porter Jr. had been dealing with injury issues, while Jokic continued to ascend. Had they been first rounded here, especially gentlemen swept, it had been the second straight season of hearing how good they were, yet just not quite seeing it. Who's to say how much longer management was gonna wait? They'd already been playing together since 2017. How could we know if they were actually a duo destined for greatness? Escaping here in the manner they did, while going on to duplicate the 3-1 feat against a real contender and winning a game against the Lakers in round 3? They knew they weren't too far off, even if the bubble did help their ascension just a bit. The talent was in fact there, and Jokic showed as much teasing his upcoming 3-point stroke while also torching Gobert at will. BJ Armstrong also recently praised Mike Malone for the job he's done coaching Jokic over the years, saying the hardest thing about coaching a great player is finding out how to let him be the best version of himself. I believe the 2020 playoffs were instrumental in this way, and especially this series, showing how many different parts of the game he could excel at while also proving he could survive in the right defensive scheme. All in all, one team went on to believe in what they had, making trades and improving roster deficiencies on their way to an eventual title, while the other had just launched their routine disappointment, blowing up the core and starting from scratch eventually. A couple of notes. This was an insane, record-breaking series with some very rare features, some which might not be duplicated. Still, objectively, there were only a few historic finishes, while including multiple blowouts. On top of this, I've now watched Nuggets Jazz twice in my life, all the way through, and there's just no way to overlook what a playoff atmosphere brings to these. Great basketball, uncharacteristic shot making for a while, but I couldn't help but notice how toward the end of Game 7, I barely even realized I was at the very end because there were no cues. Videos of crowds lightly cheering in the background weren't exactly cutting it. We were doing our best, man. With no true environment to enhance the experience, I can say a lot of the moments have even lost their luster through the years. Murray pulled out an all-time layup you don't often see reposted anywhere because of where and when it happened. Mitchell and Murray's shootout was missing a crowd to be mesmerized by what we were experiencing. There was nothing in the arena to audibly compete with Chris Webber saying how Mike Conley was hooping because he'd spread his new baby juices over him like Fred VanVleet the year before. Yeah. Look, incredible series, and one which was certainly worth the rewatch. It might not be the greatest in my opinion, but there were moments, especially with how the league is played out, that should always be remembered. So yeah, after doing that one and even through editing it, that's why it didn't take 7 parts. It's just without a crowd, you're in the bubble, 6 months layoff. It's hard to put that as the greatest playoff series of all time. It's missing a lot, but the basketball itself was definitely up there. Hope you enjoyed this iteration. Hit the like button if you do. And also, if you haven't noticed, if you have not been in the community tab, Vlad Wavy, me, and a couple of friends have pretty much kind of started a channel together. We've been streaming a lot together. It's basically counting as my second channel activity these days because the other one is defunct. And yeah, we're having a ton of fun doing this multiplayer MyGM together and just playing a lot of games together in general. So if that type of thing sounds like your speed, the link will be in the comment section and description. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed, while hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you on the next one.